My first race of 2024 at the Tuesday Night Crit, presented by Turbo Velo. This is race number 2 of Series 1, meaning that I didn't race last week, and I'm back in the saddle for this week. In the Masters Crit, that is a pretty short race, and this year, one of the differences is that it's right after the C Crit and right before the B Crit. So usually it was after the B Crit and right before the A Crit. So that meant that the really fast Cat 1s and Cat 2s and sandbagging Cat 3s had to choose between being really sharp and fresh for the A race or do the 40 plus by itself, or do them both, but in the A race they're not going to be as fresh if they contested the 40 plus crit, because this is not an easy crit. You have some really strong riders most of the time, including in this race one of the favorites, Patrick Breen, who won last week out of a 2-man breakaway. He was challenged by John Bain in that particular race, and was able to win that 2-up sprint against Bain, which, by the way, I was a little surprised, to be honest. Bain is a very sharp, good, talented sprinter, so we have to figure that the amount of work and attacks that happened before the sprint played a role in him winning that sprint, Patrick Breen. And I know that to be the case because I talked to Bain afterwards and he told me that was the case. So talking about the tactics that went into the race last week where Bain was second. Now, coming into this race, I will tell you what my goals were. My goal was to try and not get dropped and to possibly help out on the last lap if I'm still there and have any energy left. So I'm just completely in survive and energy conservation mode in this race. As a little bit of background, not that it really matters or anyone cares, but I got injured playing basketball, pick up basketball. You know, old man wants to go back and play some basketball. And injured my calf on the left side, the upper part of my calf. First time I've had a high calf injury that I can ever recall. And also last week, I just didn't have my bike ready. I thought I'm going to change all the cables and the housings and do everything, and there were some snafus along the way, including a strip bolt, including a drill tip that broke off trying to remove that bolt. No, that was my mechanic friend who did that. Just the usual stuff of DIY bicycle maintenance, but I actually did get my bike working. Actually, it felt pretty good, as far as how my bike was working, so I was happy with that part. I don't know what I'm going to say about the race tactics, because I didn't actually really even know what was going on in the race, and I wasn't really paying all that much attention to what was going on in the race. So we can see, at least one person off the front here. I talked to Patrick after the race, and he's like, "Are you going to put up the video on this?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then I warned him, "We're not going to be able to really see you in the video because you'll be a little speck in the distance as I'm sitting in the back. So you're going to have to infer some things from what's going on here." So sometimes it's good to have a little suspense. You don't know what's going to happen in the race, and we find out at the end. However, sometimes it's more interesting, perhaps, to consider that you know what's going to happen in the race. And a lot of people who are watching this, because let's face it, it's mostly local people who do this race that watch this video. Of the few people who watch the video, they already know the results of the race, so it's not a mystery to them. Some of you, you're not familiar, you didn't look at the results, you're from someplace else, you don't know the results. But I think in this case, it may be interesting to talk about the results. And so we have two heavy favorites in this race, which would be Patrick Breen, who just has a bigger engine. than anyone else who normally does the race. Meaning this guy can just ride away. He can win solo. He can just ride away. I don't know what his FTP is. He doesn't weigh a lot. He's very aero. And he just has a huge motor. He can just ride away. And he proved some mettle last week when he beat Bane heads up. One of my friends, Sam, I think he'd be okay with me saying this. He told me coming into this season that he felt like Patrick Breen had leveled up. Like he's even faster than normal, than perhaps ever before. He didn't really qualify the statement. He just said that he'd leveled up, it seemed. I did last week when I was talking to Breen briefly. I mentioned to him that Sam had said this. Man, I heard that you've leveled up. Sam told me that, and he goes, "Oh no, I didn't. It's really hard to level up. When you've been working so hard and trying to improve over all these years. But one wonders, has he leveled up?" So we have Breen, and then we have Matt Stevens. Now, Matt Stevens, he's known for having won Dirty Kanza before. So a lot of his recent racing over the past years has been on the gravel scene. And he's been, a fixture in local racing for a long time. Not many people in the local scene can say they've won something at the level of Dirty Kanza. So really another guy that can just ride away from everybody because he has that kind of engine. Neither of these guys are really thought of as sprinters, though. I hope they don't mind me saying that, but they're known for these, great, road racing, kind of gravel racing. Although Patrick, I don't think gravel races very much. Actually, maybe I've seen some stuff where he is. So take that back. Anyway, those would be the two big favorites. Like, everyone in this field will be thinking, who wants to podium and be in the results, will be thinking, there's going to be a break, and it's going to be those two guys. So you really have to follow everything related to these two guys. So then the question is, who will be in the break? And another question is, will there be a break? So this is a pretty open course with a lot of exposure to wind. As we're going right here, you can see we're headed towards the sun, so we're going west. And usually the wind in this area is either from the north or the south. I think today it was from the north, but just not much wind at all. It was like 3 miles per hour. So this is basically a windless Tuesday night crit, which means that most of the time it's much more likely that it will come down to a bunch sprint versus a very windy day when it is very likely that it will not come down to a bunch sprint. So why is that? Well, for some of you that are newer to bike racing, the reason is that it's a lot harder to draft when there's a strong wind. But you might say, oh, like with the strong wind, the people in the front have to work harder and you can just ride behind them. Well, that's if you don't factor in guttering and crosswinds, because that's what happens in races. You get guttered and there are crosswinds, and you end up having to work just as hard as everyone else at times, and you can't get that big draft benefit. So, low wind today, well, this is a good recipe for me to be able to save energy on the back here. And although we could argue that being at the very back like me is not a good place to save energy, you'll save it a little bit more energy further up. Although we don't have a lot of braking into corners and things like that, or accelerations out of corners. Although this, what I call turn 3, up here, there was at times some slowing down, braking, and certainly some accelerations, as we have a very, very slight uphill here. Now I'm looking kind of on the screen for a little breakaway attempt that's going to occur later on. So again, I'm just so verbose is what I was going to say, but that's, I don't know. I never even got to my original point, which was I was going to tell you what the results are. So the results are Breen number 1, Matt Stevens number 2, and Thomas on Team No Name number 3. Those two, the results at the top aren't surprising, right? I already told you they're the favorites. However, the part of it that is a little bit surprising is that they won the bunch sprint. How in the heck did they win the bunch sprint? That's one thing that you can watch this video to find out. How did two nominally non-sprinters win this? And maybe we can talk a little bit more as that unfolds. Maybe I'll tell you what I think before we get there, because we won't have time to discuss it in real time because it happens so fast. Now, number 3, I think, is a little bit of an upset. Thomas is a rider who does the local Tuesday and Thursday group rides that I do. You know, he does it pretty regularly. So I consider him kind of like a pop ride protege. Like he kind of, we can argue, has been trained up on the pop ride, just like me. That's how I kind of got trained up. And to be on the podium with those two guys, I think, is a great achievement in this race, and he did a great job. So this was in a bunch sprint, and you know, I was on a group ride today where he was telling me kind of what happened in the group sprint. He had good position and was chasing, and he mentioned that somebody on Trek, not Trek, was it Trek or did he say RBM? Maybe it was Trek. Anyway, I can't remember who he said did a monster pull that got him into great position, and that person kind of fell off at the end, and he was able to battle it out on the right side with one of the Cadence riders. I believe it was Joel, for 3rd place. And just by, he said, a few thousandths of a second. Very close, very close. But nobody went into this race thinking Team No Name. I think they got 3 guys on this ride. I don't think they ever had a podium last year in this race. I would even venture to say they probably have never had a podium in the 40-plus crit at the Tuesday night crit. So to be in the 2nd week and get a 3rd place, I think that's a wonderful, great achievement for Thomas and for his team, Team No Name. And then we have to say, well, who wasn't on the podium? Well, Skyline Cadence was not on the podium, and they have, I believe, by far the most racers in this field. Very, very good racers. So I think that is a little bit of an upset that they weren't on the podium. And my team, Cheney, which is probably the 2nd biggest team in this group, was not on the podium either. So, yeah, so the 2 most populated teams, I would say the 2 of the 3 teams that did the best last year in the 40-plus crit were not on the podium tonight. So let's see how this plays out. Now, we know that Matt and Patrick are not trying to get into a breakaway. And I'm so far from the action that I can't really see what's going on. Okay, this is where I believe we had my teammate, Andy, who had a little solo gap. And then Matt Stevens chased. And my teammate, new to the team this year, Marcus, jumped on Matt's wheel. And Matt took him up to Andy. And so they're a 3-man break, but without much of a gap. Now, there is the question of whether this was a good move overall. And I don't think it was a bad move, but there are some points to consider where it might not have been a great move. So one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, if Patrick Breen is not in the break, will the break be successful? Well, the issue is Patrick Breen can probably bring back the break himself. Another thing to consider is if the largest team, Skyline Cadence, is not in the break and they have plenty of firepower, are they going to let that break go? Like 2 Cheney riders and Matt Stevens? No, they're not. So they're going to do a lot to pull that back. Another thing to consider is if Marcus is feeling good, by getting up to Andy, he doesn't have the opportunity to attack over the top if and when Andy is caught. That could be fine, except that means that we have to have someone else on the team, if we're trying to go for a breakaway, that can go over the top when those 2 are caught. So they are caught, and there's a reset. And again, I apologize for not being anywhere near the action. Looks like there's a guy off the front right now. I'm not even sure who that is. And we're just rolling around here. You'll notice some water on the course in the dips. The water cannot be squeegeed away because the water is coming from the field, and just more water will come in, but they did attempt to squeegee some water out. But it wasn't risky, it wasn't slippery, it wasn't mossy. Plenty of grip on this course. This textured concrete actually has a lot of grip even when it's fully wet. So I don't like racing in the rain, but you can actually go pretty fast on this concrete when it's raining. Here's my teammate, Cheney windows and door in the blue and yellow kit. I should also mention that last week my teammate Bren got 3rd place in the crit, which is a wonderful result. His first podium in, I think he said, a few years. Maybe I've exaggerated the length of time a little bit, but in a while. And he's done a lot of work to improve and get in better shape, get stronger for this year. So a wonderful result. He's not in the blue and yellow kit. He's in the all-white kit, like 2 years ago kit, because we don't yet have our new kits for the season in. So this is Andy. I think he was just off the front. You know, he was the one that initiated that breakaway attempt, and the one I was talking about with Matt and Marcus going up to him, and they've been caught. And Andy is shuffled to the back here with me, and getting over to the left here is where there's a little bit more draft. So that's what I'm doing a little. We have a lap sign here. 2 laps to go. Okay, so I'm kind of at the back. You know, I need to be thinking about moving up if I'm going to be able to help. And I was thinking, yeah, I could probably do something. You know, I'm still here. I've been conserving energy the whole time. Leg isn't hurting. Don't really have a lot of fitness. Hardly been riding in March, but maybe I can do a little something. But let's see how it plays out. Now, again, foreshadowing, I'm going to tell you I really screwed this up and made a terrible mistake. But we'll get there. I'll talk about that when we get there. So Andy, smart, going to move up on the right. Looks like that was, I think, Marcus on the left that we just passed, that maybe a little bit tired from his effort, conserving his energy, now in the draft. And I thought, you know, Andy seems like it's a good idea. He had a good idea of moving up. Let me move up with a slight bit of tailwind, not too much energy that I have to use to move up. And there we see Matt Stevens. He's got that stripe. He's right in front of me in the white kit with the like red and orange and blue stripe horizontally on his jersey there. And I believe Breen is in a white kit, but I don't see him right now. The Team No Name rider, Thomas, is in a pink jersey. I don't see him right now either. So we're coming into 1 lap to go when we pass the starters again. And here the sheltered side is on, I guess on the right, I think about it, yeah. So everyone right now is thinking about getting good position going into the final lap. Each lap around this course is 1 mile. And it looks like it's setting up for a bunch sprint, which I already told you is what happens. So we have, you know, this sort of like 2-part final turn, which does play a role. I must say later, it didn't go so well in this part right here. Did not go so well for many of us. All right, so we have an attack. Someone putting in a last lap flyer. Also, there's a preem with 2 laps to go, so that might have been someone going for the Gambler's preem. Little sketchy moment there. An overreaction by a rider, I would say, that, you know, people are tense. But yeah, that's how crashes happen. If there had been a wheel overlap there could have been a crash. So don't make sudden movements, please. Andy. Oh. So this is a critical moment right here. A gap has opened up. Andy's done a good job, and that's Brent, my teammate there that got third last week. I'm saying, hey, Brent, get on my wheel right now. Get on my wheel. I'll take you up to this group. I should have gone forward here. I should have gone. Why did I not? Was it that little sweep out there? Why did I not go forward? I should have gone forward right there. I should have taken Brent to the front. Okay, now I'm boxed in. It's my first race this year. I'm a little bit nervous. So many guys all around me. I'm fully swamped at this point. Fully swamped in the middle. Can't go left. Can't go right. Can't get around. I've got some teammates on the far right up ahead in good position, but I am screwed here. And you can see I'm also continuing to lose positions. Getting past, not being aggressive, trying to be careful. I've had a crash on the last lap last year that I got hurt in. I don't want to crash again. So guys are moving up, and at this point I'm like, it's done, it's over. I can't help Brent. I screwed up. This is over. We've got the guys in the front. They're way up there now. This is a huge gap. There's no hope. And I just basically given up at this point. About right now, Bren's behind me and he says, hey, I'm still here. I'm like, okay, I better do something. So I go up on the inside. And I'm trying to put in a dig here to get Brent up into a better position here. And I'm going fast. I'm catching up to these guys, and not a lot of space to go around here. Looking for a spot. Boom. Sketchy moment as one rider goes into the gravel, almost tips over. This guy comes out to the right. There were about 3 times during that sprint that I had to stop pedaling. Was able to shepherd Brent to 7th. I got 9th. So a little bit of a recovery there from a terrible decision and terrible positioning for the sprint. But anyway, that's how it rolled out. So I think the message of this sprint was that good position was what was super important, and we didn't really have a lead out train for this sprint. I think it would have been safer and better if it had been faster with the lead out train, and that's something I hope our team can work on and do better in the next sprint. So good times, no accidents, good fun. Congratulations to the guys on the podium, and we'll be back next time. Take care, guys.